The views expressed in this episode are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the St. Tammany Parish Library.
Welcome back to Check It Out, the official podcast of the St. Tammany Parish Library. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about local icon Rosemerry Fuhrmann. We're going to have our genealogy librarian Ramona Elder on, as well as some other special guests. But first, let's talk about some library updates. I've got here our director, Trevor, and assistant director, Tanya.
Thank you for having us on. So we'd like to share some exciting news with everyone. If you haven't heard it yet, we are a fine-free library now. We're really happy about that. We want our library to be as welcoming and accessible to as many people as possible. And removing overdue fines helps to eliminate the barriers to access that some people experience while continuing to encourage the ultimate return of the material. So to be clear, the late fines are eliminated, but the cost of the item, if it's never returned, is still charged to the account. Libraries across the country have seen good success in implementing fine-free policies, and we truly believe that this will help many of our residents in the parish discover everything that the library has to offer.
So the most important thing is that we really want our materials back, our books and DVDs and CDs back. And most people do bring them back eventually. So this just takes away that pressure of having to worry about is it late. We also are offering an automatic renewal, something that we did not do in the past. So close to the due date, if a patron does not renew themselves, they'll get an automatic renewal. Gives them a little extra space to return it. Like Trevor said, around the country, the research is showing that most people bring their materials back. And in fact, by going fine-free, some libraries find they get more things returned because some people are just so embarrassed about having fines and overdue materials. They just don't come back to the library. We want people to come to the library, so we want to remove those barriers.
The history of our fine-free policy is interesting, I think. It began with the mobile library.
The mobile library.
Right. Mm-hmm. And as you know, with the mobile library, we travel to assisted living locations and help our patrons check out material and also mail material to patrons. And those already did not accrue late fines. So we've seen good success with that and tremendous reception. And we thought it was time to extend that to all of the residents of the parish. I would also like to say, please come out and check out the new Makerspace, everything from 3D printers to sewing machines to large format printers. With the Makerspace, we will have ongoing continuing education. So the service is, I think it's simultaneously about increasing access to devices that we might not otherwise have opportunity to have, but it's also about education and using those devices. So we implement training on all the items in the Makerspace and help our patrons access new skills with those so that they can become more confident, digitally literate, and able to navigate the emergent technology of the future.
There's also an entrepreneurial side of it too. So, of course, it's not meant for production, like if you want to have like a mug business or a sewing business. But if you are thinking about, starting a small business, you could come and use the 3D printer or the laser cutter or the sublimation printer for maybe some product development, absolutely. And like Trevor said, to learn those skills like the rendering skills and all of that kind of technical side of it, hopefully people will find lots of uses for the space.
Maker spaces in general, I think, are pretty fascinating. I think public libraries have always, in one respect, been about collectively sharing resources that we might not otherwise be able to access. All the way back to monastic libraries when you had the very intricate titles that were chained to the desks because they were so expensive. But people could still access those as a community, whereas they would not be able to own them. The mediums have changed for information, right? Now we circulate video games and we circulate DVDs and audiobooks and books as well still. But we also, convey information in technology use and learning how to use that technology. And I think in addition to all the programmatic things we have, just the community engagement through the book clubs and the monthly different unique programs that we have across the system, libraries really are about encouraging patrons to interact with information through one another or the information-bearing things within that system. And the Makerspace, I think, is just the next step in that progression for us.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've already gotten badged on the laser cutter and the Cricut machine so far.
Huzzah. Good job.
I've been badged on the large format photo printer, which is really neat. So if you want to print some, family photos, maybe even in a larger size, it prints 17 inches wide, and the length kind of just depends on your paper. Now, with that, the Makerspace will have some photo paper that patrons can purchase to use it. It's probably better to bring your own paper because we really couldn't anticipate what people might want. And it's also kind of pricey. The photo paper is pricey. It's still not as expensive as sending it off to a lab. And it's also satisfying to be able to do it yourself. But it also allows you to be creative too. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to print just a photo. You can print a poster. You could make prints of artwork. I've done that where I've had some artwork that I did that I scanned, and then I was able to print it to have multiple copies as a gift or something.
Even if you are familiar with 3D printers, I encourage you to come see all of the items that staff have created in the Makerspace room with the 3D printer, just to show the possibility of what the technology can do. Many of the things, the functional, utilitarian things in the room are 3D printed, in addition to beautiful display pieces for the public to see. Your imagination and your drive for whatever you want to accomplish, with a tool like this, we can help you get there.
Any other updates?
Our building projects are coming along. They're progressing well. We'll have some definite updates about timelines very soon. We'll be excited about that. And hopefully, if you have time, perhaps you'll invite us to come back just briefly to tell everyone about that. But otherwise, as a system, we have lots of interesting things coming up. So we have Teentober for teens in October, and as well, the adult concert series is about to begin in September. I believe it's the 16th is the first concert from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I encourage you to check out our website, look at the calendar. We have just always lots of things going on. And of course, that's why we are, I don't know if I should say this, but I think personally that this is the best public library system in the state. Just come and see and experience it yourself.
And story time is starting soon too, I believe.
Great. Just a reminder, you can go to sttamanylibrary.org/events for news about all of our upcoming events. And Tanya, Trevor, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, James.
Yeah. Up next, we've got Ramona Elder. Stick around and check it out. Welcome back. I am here with Ramona Elder today, our genealogy librarian, and she's here today to talk a little bit about a local Covington figure. So who are we talking about today, Ramona?
Hey, James, thanks for having me, and thanks for having the genealogy department today on your podcast. So today we're talking about a woman who was born in Covington. Her name was Rosemerry Fuhrmann. She married and she became Rosemerry Fuhrmann Hanian. She was born December 31st, 1922 in Covington, and she passed away February 24th, 1992 at the age of 69 years old in Covington.
So that's a familiar name to a lot of local Covington folks probably, but for those who haven't heard of her, who was Miss Rosemerry?
Miss Rosemerry was a dance teacher, and her father was Sidney Fuhrmann, who was born in Goodby, Louisiana, and he ran the theaters in town. So he had movie theaters in town, but before he had movie theaters, right, there were like show theaters. He had a theater in town, which is now where the Heritage Bank is on Columbia Street. It was called the Parkview.
Okay.
Opened in 1914. This is before there were movie cinemas. And then he got into movie cinemas, and he also opened movie cinemas in town. So she kind of grew up in that environment. She continued that in her life by becoming a professional dancer. And she married a professional dancer as well. And her impact as a teacher, as I discovered in doing some research into the blog that I wrote when I started researching her, goes back to, her growing up in the theater and being very creative. But it also goes back to her training that she received when she moved to New York City to become a dancer. She was studying with a ballet teacher, Thalea Mara, if I'm pronouncing her name right. Rosemerry studied ballet with her, and Rosemerry also taught at her ballet studio in New York. Then as well, I was fascinated to learn, for anyone today, Pilates and yoga is so mainstream. When she was in New York at that time, she was there at the same time that Joseph Pilates was there. Joseph Pilates was teaching weightlifting in his Pilates method. And as a student with Miss Rosemerry, we would do floor work for modern classes, East Indian classes. And I guess myself and my friends, we just thought that was just floor work. Maybe it was a little bit of Martha Graham, maybe it was studied modern. But now that Pilates has become so mainstream in yoga, the stuff that we were doing was Pilates, the Pilates 100. We did that every day. We just called this super stretch. That was one. So much that she taught us in floor work and modern was actually from Joseph Pilates' floor work.
Now, when she was in New York, she also did a lot on Broadway, right?
Yeah, I kind of knew just a little bit of that growing up, but looking back, she did some Broadway and Broadway's traveling shows. Some of the other ladies that are going to come on later today, some of them danced with Miss Rosemerry from 1969 onward. And they are specifically going to give more detail into her Broadway life. On September 19th, at the Covington Library, we're going to do a talk on Miss Rosemerry, and they know more specifics about her Broadway days. It was Broadway traveling. It was Kismet, The King and I, Camelot.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, the ladies that are going to come on later, they know more about all those details.
Okay.
But I will say her costumes in her dance studio in Covington, oh my gosh, they were incredible.
Why do you think people still talk about her so many years later?
That's such a good question. Because I think she was such a great teacher. She had such a great impact. If she took you into her performance troupe in Covington, she had levels of it. Kind of like a black belt, right? You have level 1 and you level all the way up to black belt. Level 1 was you were just invited and you would come on Saturdays. The rehearsals were on Saturdays and you would start studying all the dances in there. And through that process, if you stayed in that process, you would eventually reach a level of your best ability. It wasn't about being the star or the best dancer. It was about each individual developed as an artist and as a dancer to their own best abilities. In her dancing also affected the audience. The audience was affected by watching her shows. They were moved.
So how did you first get involved with dancing with Miss Rosemerry?
When I was about 13 years old, I met her with Mom after one of Miss Rosemary's shows. She would choreograph musicals for St. Paul's at L5. So this would have been 1987 or 1988. Miss Rosemerry was in the audience, and she and Mom, during intermission, they were talking. So Miss Rosemerry mentioned that she'd love to have me come dance with her if I wanted to come take some dance classes. So I thought about it. Gosh, I guess it was like a year later that I started taking ballet at her studio. And then that year later, she invited me to be in her dancer troupe.
And you just sort of fell in love with it?
I did. I met some great friends through it. I love that it was hard. I love that it was a challenge for me. So I kind of stayed with it. I thought it was really fun. Very creative.
All right. Well, I see you have a few guests with you here today. So I'm going to get out of here and make some room for them, but I can't wait to hear what they all have to say. Stay tuned.
So I brought some friends with me today, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce those right now. They've all performed with Mrs. Rosemerry. First is Tara Bodian from Folsom. Tara was one of Miss Rosemary's principal soloists when I was there, as I remember. And Tara started dancing. It was in junior high? Junior high from Folsom. Folsom girl coming into Covington. Then we have Heather Behringer Case. Heather was one of Miss Rosemary's principal East Indian dancers. And Heather, did you start dancing at age 3?
At age 3.
Then we have Kristen Knockhan Johnson. Kristen started dancing with Miss Rosemary when she was in junior high. Is that right?
13.
13. And Kristen, she tried some other studios. She liked the other studios, right? But it was just that nothing really felt like you wanted to stick around until you came to see Miss Rosemary through a friend. And your friend Kristen, I know Kristen Zorman, actually. Okay. Who owns the
she
dance?
invited me to a show, and I saw Tara in Sing.
Oh, my goodness.
That solo, and I saw Games and Hot Lunch, and I thought, I want to do that.
There you go. Perfect. And so she stayed with Miss Rosemary as well. And we have Carolyn Goday. And Carolyn has been with Miss Rosemary since 1969. When she met Mrs. Rosemary at SSA when Carolyn was 15 years old. And Miss Rosemary started her teaching at SSA. And I'm going to go ahead and just pass over this podcast, so to say, the lead. I'm going to pass the lead on now to Carolyn.
Thank you. So we'd like to welcome our audience. We would like to also thank Ramona and James for hosting this podcast sponsored by the St. Tammany Parish Library in honor of Miss Rosemary's life work. I served as Miss Rosemary's personal secretary for 22 years. She was a native of Covington. She moved to New York City in the 40s and studied dance. She performed on Broadway and Camelot with Richard Burton and Julie Andrews and did several other shows. She came home in the 60s to raise a family and to teach and touched many lives. She opened a creative dance center. She taught choreography, ballet, modern, East Indian, Cuban Haitian, creative dance, Pilates for 30 years, the last 7 as a nonprofit. And we have several members of the dance players here to share their experiences, because everyone who worked with her, she had such an incredible professionalism that she instilled in all of her dancers. And we learned many things besides just the performing, but we also learned how to present ourselves, how to have your costumes ready, how to be organized, how to work well as a group, how to support each other. And these are just beautiful things that we've taken with us for our life.
When I think about Miss Rosemary and the life skills that she taught, starting with that responsibility. I mean, we knew how to sew when we were in junior high. We could put a hook and eye on a sari like nothing. You had to press your costumes. And for me, as in junior high, I had lots of friends. Everybody went out on Friday night, but you didn't because you had rehearsal Saturday. And we knew that we had to be there and we had to be there, you know. So you learned how to be responsible. That was a big skill that you carry off into later life. The other thing, I think Carolyn mentioned this too, just that supportive environment that was at the studio. Miss Rosemary valued the individuality and uniqueness of every dancer that came through there. So we were all beautiful. And when we watched other dancers, it was never with envy. There was never any kind of jealousy. It was always, oh, look how beautiful she is. Look how beautiful that line is. We always supported each other. And you felt that as a dancer. We would get behind the other girls and learn the dances, you know, just for the beauty and the love of doing that. I think about the Mary dance at our Christmas show, and Miss Rosemary could tell you, she would choreograph it, she would teach you the movement, motivate it for you, but you still brought your individual essence in, and forever she could say, oh, she was a joyous Mary, or she was a lamenting Mary. She could always valued that
saw the strength in everyone.
She saw the strength and the beauty and the uniqueness, and she would pull that out. And that was something that you learned, you were just a part of in that studio, that we support each other and we looked at people that were unique and saw the beauty in it. And that's what we learned, one of the things we learned. And I think the most important thing that I learned from Miss Rosemerry too was a sense of confidence, a sense of self, of who I was. That came a lot from those projects we used to do. You remember those? We not only choreographed, but you come up with your concept of what it is you want to do. You found your music, your costume, and you choreographed, but it was not stringing movement together and just putting it to music. It was not a dance video. This was putting yourself out there. So you found something you felt or a story you wanted to tell. And it was a safe place because we'd sit there on Saturdays and talk about what we were doing, show our movement to each other. And we always felt supported by each other with that. And we grew with that. And she had evaluators. Her friends from New York came in and sat and gave us feedback. So you felt, you put yourself out there and you grew and you became confident and just learned a sense of yourself, because that's a kind of a scary thing to put yourself out there like that. And people are going to see this and reply to it.
It was like the first American Idol.
Yeah.
Or So You Think You Can Dance.
Yeah. But it was from your heart and your soul. You were putting your essence out there. It was not just stringy movement together. And she didn't just throw us out there, because we had a class that she would do in choreography. So you learned the parts of the stage and body angles and dynamics and all that stuff to help you to do this. And I remember when I was going into senior high school, probably 17 years old, might have been 16, and I went off to Atlanta Contemporary Dance Company where they had a summer workshop. Okay, now this is way before cell phones, and here I am, a little 17-year-old, getting on an airplane for the first time in my life, getting a taxi cab, going to this dorm, and then walking under this tunnel and down the street and finding this dance studio, and I'm thinking, who am I? What am I doing here? I'm from Folsom. What is this? I can't do this, but I could. When I got there, I could hang. I could dance with the other dancers because Miss Rosemerry gave us a foundation and a sense of self and confidence that you went in and realized, I can do this. I am a part of this. And that kind of confidence, that ability to put yourself out there and to be a part of something that's important and have that identity has carried over into life. You really, it helps you throughout your whole life. And I know that choreography piece is something that you strongly talk about.
Yes. I grew up making up dances as long as I can remember, just being in my room, listening to the Grease album. And I would do Olivia Newton-John's part and John Travolta's part. But I did. I liked to make up dances. And I moved around when I was little. So when I started dancing, it was typical tap, jazz, ballet. And I started dancing with a lady who did modern dance and improv. And I was hooked. So I was part of her junior performing group. And then we moved to Louisiana and moved to, Mandeville, Louisiana. And the time, 1985, there wasn't a whole lot in Mandeville and Covington, not many places to take dance. So I started at the typical tap, jazz, ballet place, and it just wasn't the same as, doing improv and modern. And my friend Kristen Zorman, she invited me she was dancing at Creative Dance Center, invited me to the spring show, and I was hooked. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So I believe I started dancing, it was probably that summer, 1986. And when I started high school, I started doing theater at St. Paul's. It was the first year Denny Charbonnet was there, so I did her first show, MASH. I was a ditzy dancer, one of the showgirls that was in the Army, performing for the boys. So it was just me and Nicole Delazan, and we had a tap dance. And I had tapped before, and I want to say Rosemerry choreographed our little ditty We did like a time
She
step.
She did a little bit of
step ball
tap.
She did do a
change.
little
We
bit
had
of
a
tap.
couple little
She
summer
did.
things with tap.
But I can't remember if Denny told us to do something or Rosemary came in. I'm not really sure, but that was my first show at St. Paul's. And then Rosemary choreographed all the rest of the shows. But just watching her as a choreographer, she involved everyone. Boys that couldn't dance, couldn't move, had never moved in their life. She knew how to place everyone, and she would just set her dance, her dancers in the middle. So we would rehearse at the studio, and then we would take that dance and just bring it to St. Paul's. And at that time, it was other girls from Mandeville and Covington could be a part of the show. So, so Denny had a full girls and boys,
Ensemble.
full ensemble on stage. It wasn't just the dance, because a lot of us couldn't sing or act or anything. But it was great to see Rosemary be a choreographer, work in that aspect, and make up dances right there on the spot, and put everything together. That's what
With what she
inspired
had
me.
too. Like she knew how to
what
use
she
what
had.
she had.
Yes, exactly. It
Well,
was
you do that now. That's
Yeah,
the
I
work
do
that you
at-
do.
at Christ-
Yeah.
Right now, I'm at Christ Episcopal. I'm their choreographer for their musicals. So
And it's wonderful. We love
Yeah.
seeing your
I'm
show.
inviting y'all all the time to come see. And yeah, you're putting your work out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think what had inspired me the most was that Rosemary made us do these projects.
Yeah.
Right? It was our own theme. Had to pick our song. It was costuming. And she would get her friends to come in and critique. I think even Heather would critique at times.
I remember
I
Heather
think I did a couple,
critiquing.
too.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, my experience was a little different
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
than y'all.
I mean, I always asked you things like, "What was your motivation?"
Yes.
What- and you,
Right.
so you
Yes.
had to really.
We had to make one up right then and
No.
there.
Yeah. Well, it's about this.
You had to have some kind of connection to what you were doing.
The teen angst. Yeah.
That was very prevalent with
Yes.
junior high kids.
Very
Yeah.
much so. I know.
Right, we
It was
were
a
young.
thing.
Yeah. But I got one of my projects was in one of her shows in the spring show. So
Wow.
Mhm.
work gets to be in the show. So I was so I think after that I started like taking the smaller kids and
Yeah.
I would do a dance with them, and it just made you grow as a teacher and
Yeah. She
choreographer.
modeled all of that, working with this group, would do this dances. She always built dances to what your strengths were and what.
She made them look good. It was appropriate.
Yes.
It was appropriate to their level of development.
Yes.
And she had such a presence about her, and she
Mhm.
she instilled that in us. And all she had to do was walk into a room, and she held herself up. She was graceful. She just had that confidence and presence that she was beautiful. And
She would comment on dancers when they came into that quality. You could see
Yes.
the difference in the
Yes.
dancer when they got that presence.
Yeah, they blossomed.
They blossomed.
I think that's why she waited for us, for a senior to be married.
Right. And then you were probably going away. So
Right.
She gave you the
Right.
opportunity for that
Mhm.
showcase.
Right. Also, too, what inspired me so much in choreography was just the variety of dance that she taught us.
Mhm.
Ballet, modern,
Kaleido-
jazz.
It's like a kaleidoscope.
Yes.
All these different
Yeah, she was trained in Bharatanatyam,
kinds of dancing that
Yeah.
classic Indian,
Yeah. Heather, there's a lot
Haitian,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
African dance.
Yeah.
So all of that variety. I mean, you use that in theater
Mhm.
as well
Right.
because it's so many
Mhm.
genres of dance. I think that's why I like it so much too, as being
Yeah.
a choreographer, because I can take some Indian dance and put it in Aladdin and,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know, and Lion King, I'm doing
Yes.
African. And
And we did so much performing. I mean, we were performing artists.
Yes, we were.
and folk
Yeah,
dance too.
yeah.
When we would dance with
Absolutely.
Kaminka, we would be invited to
Mhm.
dance with Kaminka.
I remember
We did
like
the
being at the
opera.
jazz
The
fest.
Jazz Fest.
Jazz
Yeah, we did
Fest.
Jazz
Fest.
Fest. We were at the
Yeah, a
World's
couple of times.
Fair.
And
World's
I remember
Fair.
like
Yeah.
not being a dancer then. Maybe I was 11 or 12 or something.
Mhm.
And then we were just walking in, you know, the part of the Jazz Fest that highlights the other worlds.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had the
Yeah.
children's.
Yeah.
We were in the children's tent.
And I just remember Mom was like, "Oh, we have to go see Miss Rosemary's Dancer." So she kind of pulled me. I'm like, "Okay, Miss Rose, okay." So we did. And I was spellbound because it was an East
Yes.
Indian dance and it was
Mhm.
a
We did whole
soloist.
Indian
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh." It was absolutely incredible. The
think that-
dance. It
I
was
think it made us
I don't-
very unique that
Oh, yes.
we were
it's
trained.
beautiful.
And
yeah.
that was really the only
Well-
time I would watch Miss Rosemary dance, doing the mudras
At the
in
end of
class.
Mhm.
That was my favorite part of class, is
Mhm.
just sit there and watch her do mudra.
And it's funny, growing up in Covington, taking the classes, you didn't realize how unique Indian dance and even
Mhm.
improv. Heather
Yes.
was improv when she was 3 years old. You know, we started
Yes.
improvising
Awesome.
very
Yes.
young age. You know, that was a part of what we did. And choreography, those things
Yes.
we took for granted.
it.
But when I went off to college, it was like,
Yes.
they don't do that.
Right.
That was unique,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
I definitely
was.
I do that a lot with the theater kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they love it.
Yeah.
But I think we are unique in all the different genres of dance that we learned. It made us very versatile. And I think Heather's going to talk about
The Indians.
The Indian.
Indian.
The Indian.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, my experience is a little different. I'm Heather Barringer Case, and I'm going to talk about my experience with East Indian with Rosemary. In the studio, there were these pictures of Rosemary and doing East Indian with several different people. And she never really spoke to me about the other people that she danced with when she did East Indian. She talked to me about the significance of her work with her partner, Jean Lesser, and the work she did in Bhaskar's dance company, Dances of India. Now, Bhaskar was an Indian film star. He did Tarzan in India, but he permanently emigrated to America in 1955, and he performed in film and theater and had his own dance company. Now, this is really interesting. He only used Americans in his dance company. And someone asked me, how did a woman from Covington, Louisiana, wind up in an Indian's dance company? Now, she is exotic. And this is a picture from 1956. And Rosemary and Jean performed in nightclub acts in the 1950s. And she always spoke of Jean to me. And she showed me these beautiful pictures of Bhaskar in solo headshots. And she spoke of him being her teacher and mentor. Ethnic dance in New York City in the 40s and 50s, there were many people, and they worked together, they danced together, they studied together. During the lecture, I'll be going into more depth about who these people were. I'll mention some names, but I'll go into more depth. They are Lamiri, Priya Gopal, and Bhaskar, and there were many more. Not only did she perform in different companies, she performed on Broadway, as Carolyn said, and Camelot with Richard Burton and Julie Andrews, and King and I with Yul Brynner, and Christine with Bhaskar and Maureen O'Hara, which is a really interesting show. I'll talk more about that at the library. And in Kismet as Samaras of Bangalore. And that is really where she let her East Indian shine. I was introduced to Indian at age 7. Now, I started dancing at 3 in the creative classes, and I went on to take modern and ballet. Everybody has to take ballet. It's like taking math. You know,
It's your basics.
Or foundation.
It's a foundation.
Grammar.
Yeah,
Grammar.
It is. Now, I'm the world's worst ballerina. Always have been. But when I took Indian, my first Indian class, I really excelled. I had the body. I could make those poses in those pictures on the wall really come alive. And my hands did the mudras. Now, mudras are, in Indian dance, the hand gestures that tell stories. I have hyperextension in my joints, and my body just takes off with that. Rosemary said to me, you know, this is something you can really sink your teeth into, especially since ballet was not. So it really made me feel better about things. So I spent several summers in New York, and I took modern dance classes, and I got to meet Bhaskar, which was really special for me. And I'll talk more about that later. And as an adult, I was lucky enough to impart some of my knowledge from Indian to some students. And I think that all of us have been able to impart some of what Miss Rosemerry taught us. One of the things that Rosemerry really excelled at was choosing performers. I don't know how she did it. The first performance I had was as a 3-year-old. No, I'll take that back. As a 4-year-old. I was about 4. And I don't know what she was thinking.
You were ready.
She needed a little Buddha.
Yeah, we needed a Buddha.
Heather would be perfect for that. Let's dress her up.
So she dressed me up, and she says, you're going to do, you know, this and this and this and this and this and this, and put me on a ladder. And she gave me to Carolyn.
No. She was like, she's told me to watch over
in
Heather.
charge.
Heather was an adult in a 4-year-old body.
But she could do that. She was
Yeah.
like, you're going to perform, and you're going to perform, and you're going to perform this. And she just knew, and you could do it.
And you did.
I did, and I don't know
Yeah.
how. I'll never get on a ladder
It would
again.
have been terrible.
I mean, I've never gotten on a ladder again, but, you know, I did that, and everyone did. She just knew.
We trusted her.
We did.
Yes.
We trusted her. I don't know how a 4-year-old trusted her, but, you know, she just knew that we were performers, and we would do it.
I remember on a Saturday rehearsal, I was doing a Saturday rehearsal. I was watching Heather Case come in. I didn't know who she was. And she came in, and it was during lunch hour. And Rosemerry was sitting on the bench, because when she was sitting on that bench in the center of the floor, and there was somebody directly in front of her, it was a hyper-focus thing where she was going to be working with that person. And Heather came in, and she sat right in, and she stood right in front of Miss Rosemerry. I didn't know who Heather was. But she just kind of came in, you know, just casually dressed, kind of sauntered in. And me and my friend Camille are at lunch, and we're like, "Who's this lady?" It was lunch hour, and sometimes people would drop in, and they would work with Miss Rosemerry that were older dancers. And there you were, and we were just watching, and all of a sudden, let me backpedal. Miss Rosemerry would take a dance, kind of like a piano player breaks down a piece of music as he learns it, measure by measure by measure. Miss Rosemerry would go back into the dance and make the dancer work. Movement, movement, movement until it was done right. So they were doing that. That's why Miss Rosemerry was on the bench. And that's why Heather was in front of her. They were breaking down all the steps so that Heather or the dancer would have it right. Right. So that happened. Okay, we watched that. But then the music came on, and I watched this woman, I didn't know, this stranger, completely transform into this role that she was playing. It was incredible. I don't think you probably remember. Do you remember that?
I had no idea.
You don't know.
What was it?
Right.
It was Indian.
It was Indian.
It's probably a Lari
Yeah.
It was a lot.
She's probably bringing you in for a special,
Maybe.
for a solo.
Was
It
it
was-
a Bharatanatyam, like a fast thing?
It might have been. And it might have been like 19 1989, 1990.
Yeah, Laurie Poo.
Probably
Yeah,
a
I'm
Laurie
thinking
Poo.
it was the Laurie Poo.
Yeah.
Good
Right.
solo that was.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
a fast solo thing.
A fast solo thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you're
Did
talking
you-
about too, that presence. We were not when you finished your bow, you carried yourself with presence off the
Off.
stage.
Yes, that is
and
right.
on.
Came
So
on and
you
off.
came on and off. There was no dropping,
Yeah.
you know.
I
Yeah.
probably went
So-
schlepping in and
Yeah.
then schlepping out.
But when the music came on and you had to do the piece, it's
Yeah.
like you're on.
Yeah.
We
That's it.
performed.
Yes.
Bow.
Performance
then-
quality.
Okay. I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love that.
Dang. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you're coming from the world and then you're coming into this artistic studio with Miss Rosemerry. I don't know. Then you go back in the world. You saunter off. I love it.
I
But
can
it
see
made
that.
us,
love it.
yeah, it made us special. I mean,
Yeah.
we had that connection.
Yes.
We are
did.
friends. How long have we known each other?
Right.
And we still
What
go
is it,
do field
80?
trips together. We
Yeah,
do
we do.
this out
Yes,
because
we
we
do.
have been
Yes.
friends because of this relationship that we developed
It's a sisterhood.
It's a sisterhood.
Yes.
It is a
So-
sisterhood.
for a long
Yeah, it's
time
many
ago.
different age groups
Yes.
from
Yes.
different backgrounds.
Yes.
Kids went to different schools. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't anything to do with that.
It
It
was
was
a
Rosemary.
serious
Karen
thread.
has been my mother
Yeah.
since I was
Three.
3 years old. 3 years
She was
old.
an adult. I was, Miss Rosemary gave her to me. And I was like, oh, okay.
You took it seriously till
Yeah.
now.
Seriously. I
Still the
did.
Remember the Dream Keeper, that thread that
Mhm.
connects
Right.
us all? So
Right.
that's kind of,
That was beautiful with the harp
Vision.
music.
Yes.
That harp.
we'll have to bring that one out when we do the library.
Yeah.
Isn't it great
talk
how we,
about
when
this.
we say a piece, we
Well,
know, we
oh,
automatically
Christmas.
know we're going
Yeah.
to do the movement.
Yes,
I want to make sure we cover Christmas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, and now,
I'll have to leave.
yeah. So I remember when I first started dancing with Miss Rosemerry. I met her
Mhm.
through my mother, Roseanne. Roseanne's a folk singer. My mother's a folk singer and a guitarist.
I
And
did a
she
performance
performed
in
with
Yes.
us
Oh,
for
good.
many years.
the
Many
first
years.
time.
She's
Queen
beautiful.
Jane, Roseanne sang that. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we would
She's-
Queen Jane.
Queen Jane.
She
Jane.
sang.
Mhm.
Nor
She
did
was
the original,
beautiful.
nor Eddie did the
Mhm.
original, and then we kept it in the repertoire, and Roseanne picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that one of the things that is her lasting heritage is the Christmas program.
Mm-hmm.
And she started that while she was teaching at Marymount Academy in Manhattan. She did the excerpt from the Bach Magnificat, that was the Dance of Humility, Mary's Dance. She first choreographed that there. And then when she came here, she kept building on it and building on it. And she did the Christmas program for 30 years. And of course, we all started. I mean, the kids would
Yeah.
start in the littlest angel who carried the candle.
And the wreath bearer, the tall
The wreath
girls,
that read-
we were wreath
Carry the
bearers.
wreath.
You learn to
first,
count
yes.
1, 2, 3,
Well,
4,
we just
5,
walked
6,
up the
7,
middle.
8. 2,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Three
7,
of us.
8. You learn to
Three.
count.
Right.
Right. And then it built and it grew. It's now in its 60th year.
Wow.
Jessica's still performing it with her
Annually.
studio. Yeah. So, but it's a beautiful program. We have a clip that we can include. That's a nice segue on the Christmas program. And so we performed it in the local churches, in the Catholic churches, and the Episcopal Church, and where else? St. Anselm, St. Peter's. We did it in
Catholics.
Folsom at
One-
St.
St.
John's.
John's.
We did it
Our Lava Lake one time.
Did it in front of the courtyhouse one time on tables.
Mhm.
the tilting tables
Table.
and the sleet.
About that.
And the
I remember that.
sleet.
We
In the
danced
open yard.
We danced with horses one time at City Park, if you remember, if anybody was a part of that show.
Yeah.
That was
Y'all were the mice. Y'all were the mice.
and it was
I
lip
was not
and-
at that.
That was interesting.
Right, right. But so the Christmas
Yeah.
program is very much something that we did for the community. We probably did like 4 shows every year. And still to this day, whenever I'm in the grocery store and I hear Carol of the Bells,
Yes.
you just, start.
Breaking the movement. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started dancing, I was 13. I started with Miss Rosemerry.
Mhm.
So I think it was the fall or the summer when I was 13. And then so I was in Ballet 1. And we had a dance that we did in the Christmas show. It's called Music Box Ballet. It was a Ballet
Mhm,
1
mhm,
dance. So I was in that. And I remember, gosh, I was so embarrassed because I'm like 13 and my friends are there watching me and they were very supportive and stuff. But I remember like, I'm cast with 10 and 9-year-olds. Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. I show up, I have like shiny pink tights. My hair is not really done right. I don't have on makeup. I've never performed.
But we took you under our wing.
But I
we helped you
learned.
out with that.
I learned, yeah.
This is how you do it, Ramona.
big sisters
Slick
at that
back.
studio.
Slick back.
I remember helping Ramona. Yeah.
I was just
Here,
like,
Ramona, let me help you with your skirt.
Yes,
I didn't know.
It's a safety pin, Ramona.
Pin
We
it.
need to
You
remove
can
the safety
pin
pin
it.
and
Would you like me to iron your skirt again?
sew a hook and eye on that.
And it was true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
Right.
It's
Oh,
a
I
village.
was prepared.
Everyone, younger, we all looked up to y'all.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
were my ballet teacher at one time,
Right.
and just watching y'all dance
Mhm.
in the studio,
Right.
just
Yeah.
And we had to make multiple
We wanted to be
changes.
you,
had
you
to
know?
make quick changes. So you had to have
Yeah.
every single item that you
Whew.
needed.
That was
And you sometimes had to share that item with
Yes,
someone
we
else.
shared tights.
Yeah.
like changing from ballet to Indian changes.
you had like
Yes.
3 pairs of
that we
tights
all would
on.
do.
Yeah, we did like 30 and 40 performances a year. We did a lot of
Great.
the local festivals. We were
And
I was
dancing.
never in the ballet. I was never in the ballet.
Ballet.
Not even the music box ballet.
I was never in the ballet.
She
numbers.
knew your strengths.
She did.
That's right.
I was
Yeah,
never in the
she knew all
ballet.
the
She
numbers.
didn't want to
Well,
torture
yeah.
you.
Do y'all remember her laugh? How she had this wonderful when she would really laugh, she would do this. Nora could make her laugh. I could
Jennifer
make her
Moore.
laugh.
Jennifer Moore.
Jennifer Moore with the little
Yeah.
dog when
The
she
improv.
Yes.
improvised the
Yeah.
little
Miss
doggy.
Rosemary's
Rosemary's
dog.
Make her laugh.
Laddie.
Laddie.
People could
That was
make her
amazing.
laugh.
Isn't it funny how those
She
little
just-
things we remember so
Yes.
sharply,
Yeah.
those little
Mhm.
instances. I loved
True.
those studio shows. Those were like my favorites when we did
Yes.
the
Tara, I
studio
did too.
shows.
I loved it.
So
Those were
intimate.
great.
Yes, we did the
wait,
glows. Remember
Yes.
all the glows in the
and we
summer?
would hang the saris up across the
Yes.
back,
Yes,
and
and
we
we
would
had
stand on that
we
old
still
rickety
need
ladder.
to do that. We still need
Yes.
to do that.
We do.
So
Talk
hot.
about that.
Oh,
So
it was
hot.
so
Still
hot.
glow. I know.
Yeah, one more
Yeah.
thing about the Christmas was she would at the end of the Christmas show every year, like when I was 13, when I was ready to quit, she said, "You've got to
Yes.
come to
But
the
you
Christmas
didn't.
party." I did.
Oh.
You got to come to the Christmas party. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go." I was very shy, and I'm like, "I don't want to go to the Christmas party." But okay, I'll go to the Christmas party.
Right.
And then at the Christmas party is when she at the end of the party. Remember, she had the envelopes at the end of the year.
You got
And then-
invited to move up.
And then
Invited
people would
to-
move
that
up.
on this
Mhm.
day,
Yes.
December
Mhm.
such and
Mhm.
such.
So
Right.
that's how I
As
got
you're
it.
invited.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And I
Right.
remember, so she did that, and she called my name and invited me as an apprentice, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
other
All
people were
different
moving
levels.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Right.
was like, this is so. Then January,
It was earned. It
Yeah,
was
it
earned.
was.
It wasn't just
No,
Right.
it was
you,
earned.
You earned.
You dreamed of being a dance player.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
And you
You
worked. We
did.
worked hard.
You worked hard.
Yes.
very
Sometimes
hard.
I'd
Do
have
it.
to wring out my
Very.
tights and put new tights on after lunch because of the
Yeah.
sweat.
There would be sweat down the wood floor.
Yes.
That's
I
where
would
Carol
change tights.
slid.
Yeah.
That's where Kristen's.
Yeah.
We were.
Yeah. So we would like to invite everybody to come to September the 19th
That's right.
at 2:00 at the Covington
Library.
Library. And we're going to do a lecture that allows each of us to cover in more detail, historical documentation and to provide our research to the library as archival material. But you'll get to hear more detail.
And share your story. If anyone
Yeah.
comes that has their story that they would
Right.
like to share at that event,
Right, and it
would
could
be great.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Some of the dancers will
Some of the
come.
dance
dancers.
players.
Yeah.
And then
Invite all
people-
dance players.
Yeah,
Yes,
and people that
please
may have
come
read
share.
poetry or played music in her
Yes.
shows, or
Yes.
taken one of her
Narrators.
classes, taken a
Frances.
Pilates class.
Or just newer and want to be a
Mhm.
part of this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
you so
hosting
much.
us.
You're
for having
welcome.
Thank you, Mona.
James.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you.
Thank you.
Well, wow, that was great. She sounds like a really amazing teacher.
She was. Thank you, James. You know, and even though I danced with her for 3.5 years from age 13, she passed away when I was 17 in 1992. The ladies that were just on, some of them danced through the 60s, the late 60s, the 70s, the 80s, through 92. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, what, 3 decades? Which is pretty phenomenal.
But it sounds like whether you knew her for 3 or 30 years, she was a really big part of y'all's lives.
Absolutely, yeah. Because we would rehearse. If you were rehearsing in the dance troupe, you were spending your Saturdays there. And then you'd have your hours of dance classes too. So you're talking 10 hours a week, easy. And then during shows, maybe 15 hours a week dancing. And there was no air conditioning in that studio. It was hot, but it was great.
Well, thanks so much for being here to all of
Welcome.
you. If you're interested in hearing more about Miss Rosemerry or seeing some videos and pictures, make sure to head to the Covington Library branch on September 19th, Saturday at 2 p.m. and sign up online in advance at sttamanylibrary.org/events. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Check It Out.